From Absurd Ventures and Dark Horse Comics comes the first appearance of a new crime fiction saga, an original comic book series from the mind of Dan Houser, the writer and creative director of Grand Theft Auto.
All right, Jace from the Comic Source coming to you live once again from San Deigo Comic Con. I have a couple of fantastic creators here to tell us about their project. It's coming from Dark Horse. Hope you guys all saw the trailer. I'll put a link in the show notes. If you haven't, go and check it out. It's called American Caper. I have Lazlo, David Lapham here to talk to us about it today. Again, go check out that trailer. It's absolutely awesome. I'm going to start with you, Lazlo. Give the elevator pitch to our audience. Let them know what American Caper is about.
Well, American Caper is written by Dan Houser with additional writing by myself and drawn by David Lapham. And it's the story of two families, they're neighbors, and one family is a woman, formerly was super left. She's now been red-pilled. Her husband is given into his addictions of gambling and chicken wings, hanging out at casinos. Their next-door neighbors are this perfect Mormon family, but the husband is a murderer. And so the comic basically opens up with a van that had been carjacked. There was smuggling immigrants into the country. It was carjacked by three convicts, and they crash in between these two houses in this fictional town of Verona, Wyoming. And bedlam ensues.
A tale of two totally normal, completely damaged families. In a world of corrupt business, inept politics, bungling crime, self-righteous justice, and problematic leisure wear.
So there's some interesting characters that were in that van that we follow, including a Mexican, former Mexican beauty queen. But then we've also got one of our favorite characters whose name is Marty, who is, Dan and I are obsessed with these Wall Street hedge fund guys that will buy a huge multi-million-dollar ranch in Wyoming and then play cowboy. So while, shooting up HGH and trying to stave off getting old. So there's a lot of characters. One of the things that's been great working with David, because Dan and I don't come from the comics world, is he's given us a lot of guidance on the scripts and the story. It's very collaborative. He pushes us to push the boundaries, to make sure that we murder someone in every issue.
Yes, not enough murder. We need more murder.
Yeah, coming from the guys that made Grand Theft Auto, but being that it's focused on these two families, and that's something that your art is very, very humanizing. So this must have been a no-brainer. These guys come to you and want to make you part of this project.
Don't forget your microphone.
Yeah. Oh, sorry. Hello. It kind of is. It's very in my wheelhouse, combining like the domestic with crime, with murder and violence and hilarity and this really has it all. And the editor that they hired, Shelley Bond, to bring this project together, we used to work together back in the Vertigo days, and so she dragged me into this, and it's been a blast. We get on Zoom all the time, and Lazlo and Dan are both super collaborative and open to ideas and open to being like razzed and pushed about murdering more people and having more sex and more violence and more everything.
It is. We were so blessed with. First off, Shelley Bond has brought some of my favorite comic books to life. I mean, Fables, I was just addicted to, and so many other incredible things. I didn't realize how important a comic book editor is. I always thought that they just fix grammar, which mine is terrible because I'm from Oklahoma and lift a lot of lead paint. But she's basically like the executive producer, and she put this powerhouse team together of Lapham, and then we have Chris Anderson doing finishes. He really brings a dark, gritty tone to it, and then Lee on the colors, and Picos on the. He brings a lot to the lettering. And it's she put together like a superstar team, and they've been very kind with guiding Dan and I along on this journey. But it's got a lot of the comedy and satire that Dan and I are known for, and he came up with all the characters, and they're pretty outrageous.
Yeah, well, that's one of the things that kind of struck me, and you see it in the trailer, along with David's work of humanizing them. And you talked a little bit about it, in terms of family. So, I'm a son, I'm a brother, and now I'm in this crazy situation because of this van crashing, and now maybe I'm something else. Maybe I'm a wannabe criminal, or I'm a hedge fund. What I'm getting at is we all have all these different identities and kind of roles that we play based on, what the relationship is like. So how has that been, exploring that in this new medium?
Well, first off, making comics is harder than I imagined. And I give, making art is hard. And as a longtime comic book fan, and obviously having worked on games, when you consume a comic book, everything feels right and effortless. Something stands out and jars you out of that experience. Same with making open world games. You try to make this cinematic universe where you feel like you're in your own movie. And so, Dan has children. I don't. He's from England. I'm from Oklahoma, and we bring a lot of different perspectives. But we have both of these families that are neighbors are unaware that they're involved in this shady real estate deal to build a luxury golf resort. Because if you have pristine wilderness in America, then why not mow it down and build an exclusive golf club for rich dicks to get drunk at and carve up the American dream. What were you going to say?
No, I'm going. I'm bored with all of it. Yeah, it's just it is just this sort of not slice of it. This is America, and it's one thing to have all these ideas, like we all know, like rich guys are dicks and this, but to then have to craft the story around it and make them also real characters so that you get it, and then at the same time, it's totally over the top. Like, it can't be more. I don't think there'd be anything like it out there. This, like, we are, and we're just pushing to be more and more over the top. As long as we can keep it grounded in the characters, so that you care about these these guys.
Yeah, and going back to the kind of the point of the identity. You're coming at it from a character design point. We're certainly going to be taking these characters on a journey. So has that been a challenge, a welcome challenge? Was it easier than you thought? Because, when we first meet them, they are in a way just kind of small town America. But I imagine through these extraordinary circumstances they're going to, we're going to see them go through a lot of shit. So visually, are we going to have cues of, things, like not even just the emotional moments, but it could be scars, or they get in fights, or that sort of thing?
Yeah, all the above. There's everything. We want to use all the tools. So yeah, there's visual things that happen. We try and even go so far. I'm even coming out of my box a little bit in terms of being known straight bullets, which is very was told very straightforward in a grid pattern, and they've got me like breaking out of that a little bit too.
Well, kind of playing off what you were saying, David, was kind of pushing yourself. Story-wise, you and Dan doing it, obviously you guys are known for, as you said, your satire and pushing things over the top. Anything that you didn't feel comfortable putting in here, or are you guys just completely going for it?
We're pretty much going for it. I mean, the storytelling that Dan is known for, we really try to have relatable characters. So there's such a diverse cast and very flawed individuals, but we try to have those moments where you sort of see yourself for a moment in them, and are sympathetic. By the same token, whenever we have characters that are just completely awful human beings, we make sure that they die. In the games that Dan and I worked on, whenever there were characters that were, sexist or racist or anything like that. They, you made sure that they met a terrible, terrible end for being such an awful human. The storytelling in comics is interesting because when Dan and I work on the script together and send it to David and Shelley, they'll read it through and then they have sort of a private conversation so not to hurt my feelings. And they come back, and once he does the first pass of just thumbnails of laying pages out, it makes you realize having a fantastic visual storyteller like David, because he comes up with things that that we didn't really give him stage direction on. I don't know if it's because I'm lazy or because I'm just afraid of going the wrong direction, but he's been really good about, hey, we've had too many conversations in cars or conversations in this office. Let's find a change of location, and that's been him and Shelley pushing Dan and I. I'll go into Dan's office and I'll say, Lapham really thinks that we need to come up with a different location that'll bring something more interesting to this scene. And because we're used to in video games, when you have extra locations, it's really expensive, right? Because you've got to 3D model it in the whole 9 yards, like all the interiors. You've got to have a huge team putting this together. But with comics, I can just say to David, I was like, hey, we need to change the location. Let's have them at like a fictional Costco buying, cases of garbage food. And so then you get lots of interesting, funny storytelling and jokes in there. Dan and I we were known for coming up with a lot of those fictional brands in Grand Theft Auto that you heard on the radio and you saw billboards for them and TV commercials. And this maniac comes up with like these fake brands for everything from beer to bear claws to he comes up with really funny names.
I think you come up with this. I'm almost afraid. I'm like, is Lazlo going to approve this one? Is this funny enough? Is this ironic enough?
Is that fun for you, David, to get into those little details like that?
Oh yeah, that's super. It's a lot of fun. I would say, like, for the brands that I really think you're like an expert on this. Like, you guys come up with I don't want to reveal anything, but there's the one headline. The Dick Cheney one. That was pretty brilliant. But the fun for me. Well, just to step back for a second, this whole process is fun because they're so collaborative, and we get on the Zoom, and even they're the writers and they're coming up with the story, but they're like, for some reason, don't get upset at me or even at Shelley or whatever when we're like, hey, what about this idea or what about that idea, which is great. But even with the script, like, for me, it's like how I call it like the story within the story. Like, you can give the same script to 10 different artists and they're going to come back with something completely different. Yeah. So it's like, it's all those little details, how the characters act, how they move, how they interact with the environment, how you can, what elements can you take? Like, I drew a room, like, and now there's a fight. Like, what can I use that I already drew in the room in the establishing shot? Can that be incorporated into the fight? And then how does that affect things in that and the story overall or about their characters? And
David's really good about pushing us to have connective tissue between scenes. So you've got someone with blood on their hands from a murder, and then you cut to the next scene and somebody's got chicken wing sauce all over their hands.
So we'll finish with this. Why call it American Caper? Who came up with the title?
Dan came up with that, and there's an underlying caper that weaves throughout the various stories that are connected, and so I think it's a brilliant title. And when we first started talking about it, it was very much like about how the American West was very wild, and then you've got in places like Wyoming and Montana, you've got the local locals, which tend to be more conservative, and then you've got the outsiders who are coming in that tend to be a bit more liberal, and there's a lot of friction there. But also, we love to make fun of hypocrites and maniacs, and just satirize everybody with equal enthusiasm on all sides of the political spectrum.
Right on. And this is planned for how many issues?
So 12 issues for this first storyline, and we're on 8. We just so we're on 8 now, and it comes out in November. So I'm glad that we're ahead, because frankly we've been going back and tweaking things and changing things, and running into some continuity issues that we fix. And I can't imagine if we were like right up against the wire, that this would be very stressful.
Fantastic. Well, as I always tell you guys, the lifeblood of comics is pre-order. Let your comic shops know now, hey, I want this book. Let's get the buzz going. You want to be sure you get your hands on it. It's going to be a hot book, I promise. I mean, we all know how successful GTA is, and we all love it. So definitely let your comic shop know that you want to pick this up in November when it comes out. Lazlo, David, thanks so much for joining me. I'm really excited. Can't wait to check out the project myself.
Thank you.
American Caper.